Good afternoon, everybody. This is Frank Messina, and I'd like to welcome you to the December 15th, 2020 virtual meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission, which is being held with remote participation only. Have a couple of quick announcements. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing from any smartphone or tablet device. If anybody else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman now. Hearing none, no one's recording. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately address the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen in to this meeting while in progress may doing so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. The conference ID is 764-288-146#. Despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access and will post the record of the meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Needless to say, the meeting is being conducted virtually, so all votes has to be done by roll call, and we will ask citizens and non-board members in the call for their name and the last 4 digits of their phone number for identification purpose. After the agenda has been discussed by the public body, request citizens and non-citizens board members to make their comments or questions. All votes are taken by roll call. Our policy is that any member of the public can speak to any item on the agenda when recognized by the chair. Okay, having done that, I think I got it all in. We'll take a roll call. Bob Lear?
Yes, here.
Ben?
Here.
Stephanie?
Here.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Here.
Steve Burlingame? Not here. Erica? Not here. Sandy Porter? Not here. So we have a quorum, and we will continue. The next item on the agenda is the minutes. We have minutes from December 1st, 2020, which was our last meeting. Does any member of the board have any comments or questions, additions or deletions? Okay, I have one comment or potentially an addition. Just for completeness, Michelle. Someone turn your phone off. Michelle, under
Yes,
the
Frank.
new business, Protect Our Past, the CPC application, I think it's worthwhile indicating, something about Don's negative vote. I think it's important. I think he brought up the issue of whether or not this type of request was legal or authorized under the Community Preservation Act. Don, is that pretty much what you said? Mr. Aikman?
Yes, Frank, that's what I said.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that change, if there's no further changes, can I get a motion, please, Bob?
It's Bob, yes. I move approval of the minutes of December 1st, 2020.
This is Steph. I'll second.
Second. Okay, no other further comments. We'll take a roll call. Bob?
Aye, yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane will abstain. And
Yes,
Don?
I will abstain.
Don,
Yes, for Don.
thank you, and the chair votes yes. Okay, that's done. Okay, we have a relatively straightforward agenda, just two applications. The first application is a continuation from our 11:17 minute meeting. It's applications 20034 to be heard, was heard under chapter 158 or is being heard under chapter 158. And the address is 201 Old Harbor Road. Brenda Melvin.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hello, Brenda. How you doing?
I'm well, thanks. And yourself?
Hanging in there.
Excellent.
Okay. Let me just make a couple of comments as soon as I get myself organized. We continued this application because there was a question under the previously filed application, which concluded some very nice pictures, but no real definition relative to the size and scope of what was being demolished, nor did the chair feel, and I think we all felt, that we had drawings which reflected what was going to replace this structure. I believe, somebody correct me here, that we've already noted that this was historically significant. Is that correct, Michelle?
Sorry, Frank, I'm having trouble with my microphone. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so the second part of this application, or the second part of this hearing for the public's information, is now that we determined the structure at 201 Old Harbor Road to be historically significant, it was a question of approving the application as submitted or imposing a demolition delay. Okay. Brenna has given us a series of drawings which were completed, I guess, by her architect, which show the existing conditions and the elevations. So, Brenna, let me ask a question if I could.
Of course.
I assume you're presenting?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, you didn't make any changes. What we've done here is you have given us drawings which reflect exactly what you're planning to do.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. One thing, and Michelle, we should talk about this when we have our meeting with Ms. Donovan relative to the application process. I can't read the notes, Brenda. Maybe I need a magnifying glass. And Michelle, the issue is, you know, everybody likes to do things 8.5 by 11, but do you have a larger set of drawings, Michelle?
I do not. What is it that you're having trouble reading,
Well-
where the arrows are?
Was that Brenna or Michelle talking?
No, I'm sorry, that's Michelle, and I'm guessing that on the proposed drawings that you're having trouble reading the wording that's attached to,
Well,
the
let me ask the
line that
question
points
another
to
way.
the area of modification.
Yeah, Brenna?
Yes.
Well, you have existing conditions on the first page. I guess they're number EX3.
I
Okay.
did that.
Yeah. The second page is rear elevation at 2.3. Can you put that up? Now, a lot of people have better eyes than I do, or a magnifying glass. What do those notes say?
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to flip through. So, so the moving sort of left to right,
Yes.
on the top bit above the door there, reads new PVC painted to match, trim painted to match. And so that's pointing to the trim around the windows, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows on the dormer.
And underneath it?
And then it says, continue sill profile below clear story. So if you look at the door to the single door on the left, it's there's a bump out, see where the small window is, just to the right of that door. And so it's continuing that profile straight down.
All right. Michelle, are you doing the drawings online?
No, Ally is sharing for me.
Ally, can you see if you can point to what she's talking about?
Sorry, I'm trying to follow along. I'm just a little confused. Am I in the right location?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are. So right above the door, see the door on the left? Above, yes, that. And so, correct. So the language on the top reads new PVC trim painted to match. And so that's pointing to the trim around the windows. Correct. And then continue sill, and then below that reads continue sill profile below clear story. So it's essentially carrying the dormer to be straight with the window, the wall below.
All right, so there's an arrow point, it's taking it all the way. All right. I guess I understand. Can you continue?
Sure. So then number 1 reads new red, the top piece reads new red cedar roofing at loft area. Then the second line reads new flashing at cut and patch line.
Got it.
And the last piece reads at new cheek wall connection east side. Each side, sorry.
All right.
And so then below where you see the 3 doors reads new 3-panel French patio replacement door unit. It's currently a slider and we want to install French doors.
Okay. Ben, I see your hand up. Is something you want to ask now or can it wait? All right, you took your hand down. All right, continue.
Okay, so then I'm sorry, if you can move, shift upwards, please. Thank you. So the top line right there that's pointing to the door reads new 4-light glazed door with lower insert panel.
Oh, okay, I can see it now.
Sure. Then the next line reads new 4-light window units each side of door. And so there are currently 2 windows up there, so we're replacing the 2 windows with these 2.
Okay.
And,
Does anybody have any other questions on this drawing? All right, why don't we continue?
So then the next line reads new picket rail and cap profile at new deck perimeter, flat trim to match. And
Got
that's pointing to the railing.
Got it. All right, the
And
next drawing, I understand is EX4 is just the existing conditions on the front of the historic house. If you can go to EX4.
Correct.
All right, and there's no changes on that at all.
Actually, well, so the next slide down shows that addition that we just discussed with
Right.
the railing. But
Yeah,
correct, it's
one.
aside from shingling and windows and doors, but that's maintenance.
Got it. And that's the new addition or the tail end of the new addition.
Correct on the next slide down.
And that
Okay, the side notes I can read. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And EX5 is the existing condition of the right side.
Correct. Well, yes, it's looking at the house from the north.
Right.
So it's the main house, and then there's an L addition off of that.
Okay, and then on 824,
is the proposed, looking at it at the house from the north. And so it's showing that dormer addition right there, and then the addition off of the master bedroom.
And it says new something. Or revised, I can't see.
Hang on, we'll zoom in.
The note over the railing,
Yes,
It's
it
the
reads
same.
new picket rail and cap profile at new deck perimeter, flat trim to match.
got it. And then 2 is the existing condition on the front.
Yes, the side that faces the street, it's the side of the house, but yes, from the street, it's the front.
Okay, go to A22.
And so that from the street, you'll see that there's the addition of the dormer off the back.
Got it. And that big note is just the same thing, continuation. I see red cedar, so it's,
Yeah, correct.
sorry to be a pain,
No, you're fine. I get it.
but the only thing I would like to say is like, Michelle,
Yes, Frank.
I guess if we had a larger sheet to sign off for your file.
Okay, then I'll ask the applicant to provide us with a larger version of the plans.
Yeah, I'm sure your architect, I mean, you don't need 14 copies, just 1 copy.
Right.
Brenna?
Okay, I've got it covered.
11 by
All right.
17.
11 by 17.
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, guys, I went through it anyway, from my perspective. All right, does anybody have any comments and or questions? You know, I think at the time we were generally comfortable with it. We just didn't want it something more definitive of what the heck it's gonna look like that I could sign off. Any members of the commission have any comments or question?
Frank, it's Don.
Yes, Don?
I think it's an appropriate addition to a historic house.
Very good. Is anybody feeling the negative? If not, then I would ask our chair to give us a motion.
We did find it was historically significant already, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I would then move that the Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated December 2nd, 2020 will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Do I hear a
Don,
second?
second.
Second,
Okay, who is that?
Jane.
Jane, just say Jane first before you say what you're
Hey,
doing.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll get used to this. Okay, no other further comments? Any member of the public? All right, we'll take a roll call. Bob,
Yes,
Ben,
Yeah.
Steph,
yes,
Jane,
Yes,
Don, and the chair votes yes. Brenna, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, good luck, and I appreciate your patience with us.
No worries. Have a good day, all.
Bye now. Okay. Our next application is 20037 to be heard in accordance with chapter 158, the demolition delay. The address is 543 Old Harbor. It's filed by Mr. Riley for Michael Earls. You know, Michelle, we had a letter on the previous application, kind of late now, but guess you have it in the file. It was not a
Good
negative
afternoon,
letter
Mr.
for the
Chairman.
members of the board. You have it.
Yes, I have it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just didn't remember. Okay. Mr. Riley, are you here, sir?
I am here, Mr. Chairman. How are you today?
Very good. Very good. And yourself?
I'm very well, thank you.
Are you
The
being ready for
reason for the reapplication is that the Earls family got permission from Jay Briggs to do interior demolition prior to getting a building permit. And they discovered some problems with the property, namely that a lot of the building was not as old as it had been supposed before the interior walls were removed. And some of the construction of a part that was thought to be, the 1820 stuff was pretty shoddy and had been actually done in 1946. So what they would like to do is demolish more of the structure, although the design wouldn't change. So it will still continue to, particularly the older section, will continue to look as it does today on the exterior. So is Kate Earls is on the line, I know. Kate, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Is Mark Sangiolo with us too?
Yes, I'm here, Mark Sangiolo, architect.
Okay, then what I would ask, Mr. Chairman, is if Mark can explain findings they had and the changes he wants to make. Mark, go ahead.
Sure.
All right, 1 second, Mark. Let me just give a little bit of introduction to the public. Again, this is 543 Old Harbor Road. There is a Form B on the property for 543, 545. I guess this particular structure has 2 addresses, Bill?
The Earls family, excuse me, the Earls family is just going to use 543.
Okay. I guess when I drove by, it's hard to discern. Are they 2 separate independent structures, or it's all contiguous?
The cabin was when Alice Hiscock owned it, her son apparently wanted to live as far away from his mother as he could be, but of course he couldn't afford to live anywhere but at her house. So they put an addition on, and he got a separate address, so his mail would go there. So,
but it's connected.
Yeah, it's always been connected.
Got it. Physically. All right.
They were a strange family.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so again, it's Form B. The Form B indicates that part of the structure goes back to 17 or 1800s, and there is some narrative in the Form B of whether or not it was 17 something or 18 something. Either way, there's no question in my mind, or possibly of the age or the historical significance. So, Bill, let's try and dispose of that element of the hearing first. Is there any question relative to the historical significance of the property? I realize with your
Frank, we had a previous hearing. It was found to be historically significant.
I'm sorry, it's hard to read it.
Nobody's contesting that.
Say again?
Nobody is contesting the fact that in a prior hearing it was found to be historically significant. All we're looking at today, which Mark will explain, is that some portions that were thought to be 1820 were actually 1946. And again, without saying they're not historic, but the construction was particularly shoddy. And so they want to remove portions that were thought to be 1820, but were actually 1946. The rebuild will be exactly what was presented. So the building, that's the oldest part, will continue to look exactly the way it does today.
All right, I understand, Bill, but just correct me, and for members of the commission and the public, are you saying we already heard this once before?
Yes.
When did we do that, Michelle?
Frank, you heard the application on October 6th, and you made a determination of historical significance on that date.
All right.
Yeah, I forget things too, Frank, so don't feel bad.
I know. Well, bear with me. All right. And at the time, we didn't complete it, did we, after the historical significance?
Yes, you did.
We did.
And
Oh, we did.
the plan that was presented at that time was approved, and that called for demolition of most of what was built in 1946 and what was built in 1970.
Got it.
So now, as Mark will explain, because a portion of the property that was thought to be built in 1820 was actually built in 1946 and was built with very poor construction techniques. They want to demolish, I guess, or remove that part of the building, and replace it exactly in kind. I mean, it's going to look exactly the same as the previous approval. And so I know Mark has submitted plans, which you can put up on the screen and show. But I think Mark should be allowed to explain what we're doing.
All right, good. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you correcting it.
Frank, it's Bob. I have a question to try and clarify about what Mr. Riley's bringing up. I'm reading the application, and I frankly don't see anything related to what he's saying now. I see the garage being deleted from the plan and that being mentioned, but is there something in these plans, Bill, that show what you're talking about and point it out?
Well, if we'll let Mark speak, I think we
But
can.
why doesn't the application say what you're saying now?
Yeah, that's the confusion, Bill. I didn't read, I just read the application and
Well, it's okay. So it's a lousy form. I've said that many times, and you know. So
all right, let's not get into that, William.
Okay,
You know, you're supposed to provide a narrative, and you know,
I did.
that's what Mr. Lear is talking about.
Does something in that narrative relate to what you're telling us now?
No, I thought it did.
And the reason on the front is stated the converted garage is being removed to be more compliant with conservation regulations. Fine,
Wait a minute.
but
That's
the
the
rest
wrong
of the
narrative.
stuff is not in there. Unless you point it out to
See,
me.
that sounds like the original narrative. Michelle.
This
Don't
is
blame
what you
Michelle.
submitted, Bill, so I've
This is
just
a new
forwarded it to the
application.
commission.
All right, just a minute.
Michelle, why is this a new application? Couldn't they have modified the existing?
Frank, we had an email correspondence about this. Attorney Riley had emailed us and asked us if we needed to return to the commission, and the determination was made that the changes were significant enough that it did need to come back. Couldn't be done administratively.
All right, now I remember. So now what we
Yes.
need to do, I guess, is, all right, Bill, I'm sorry, we're interrupting you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's all right. Now I have to I'm mystified how the original narrative got connected to the new application.
Well,
Well,
that's what happens when we get old.
That's true.
Okay.
it's how it was submitted, so that's the way they got it.
No, look, I understand. I'm just trying to. What I'm trying to do is yeah. See, we hand filed that too, so.
So you think you have a revised narrative which actually explains what you're doing?
I think so. Although, you know, yeah, historical impact. There you go. 17. Okay.
Yes, Bob.
I was just, I mean, I see the garage thing on the plans. It takes a while to find it. The old garage space or whatever was removed and the garage incorporated in what used to be the, I don't know, bedroom or something like that. So fine, but the other stuff about 1946 inside is not in here at all.
Bob, do you not have a narrative that was attached to the application that's only just 4 lines long?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. What does it say about we're gonna demolish a little bit more, or is that the 2,909 square feet?
It starts out with the oldest portion of the structure was built in 1819.
Yeah.
There were additions done circa 1946 of that part of the house. 2,909 square feet will be demolished or modified. The most recent modification was done in 1970. Is that what you have?
Yes.
I do. And
Yeah.
the 1970 part, I assume, is the garage at the far north end, which was
Okay.
demolished and is now just remaining demolished.
Mhm.
All right, look,
I'm at a loss to understand from this application what Mr. Riley's talking about.
I assume too much in this narrative, so I apologize. If you compare it to the previous application, you can see that we've increased the area to be demolished. If you look on the application, but I suppose you'd have to compare it to the other one. Because all we did was, on your application, you say how much is being demolished. So we put a number in there.
all right,
So the number now is 2,909 instead of what the previous number was.
all right. Why don't we do this, notwithstanding the narrative, which may be a little confusing to some of us. Why don't we let your architect just walk us through the plans and we can get an idea what you're actually planning to do?
Okay, so the one last thing I say is you can see on the plan that's up on the screen now, there's a cross-hatched area. The width of the antique house. Scroll it up a little bit, Michelle, please. There you go. Perfect. Oops, now it's gone. All right, so the if you can, who's got the control of the cursor?
Allie.
Okay, Allie, can you put the cursor where the door is going to be replaced by a window and the antique? It's over. Further to the left, further to the left, further to the left. Okay, stop. There you go, right there. Perfect. Okay. So that section, that crosshatch section of the antique, is the section that was discovered to have been added in 1946 and not 1820.
Ah. Okay.
So that's the part we want to remove. So now, Mark, will you please explain what you found?
So, Bill, let me just clarify something. We previously approved this, but not with that part of the old house being demolished.
That's correct.
See how easy it is? Well, no, I mean, you could complain about the application, but it's not a simple drawing and stuff like that. And that's why
I apologize for the lack of clarity.
Well, that's okay. Sorry, but it's not like we're trying to be pains. We're just trying to understand it and make sure the public understands.
No, I appreciate that. So anyway, Mark or Kate, whoever wants to explain what transpired during the demolition.
Sure.
And what you want to do about it.
Mark Sangiolo, architect for the project. Thanks for having us. If you look at this drawing that we're all looking at, EX1, going from left to right, you see the area that's not crosshatched. That's the original 1800 part of the house, typical posted beam construction, well constructed. What we thought was part of that circa 1800s is that little strip to the right. And then also to the right of that, the L that was attached to the house. Just assuming based on experience, based on how some of these old houses look, we thought that L was 1822 as well. So getting into some of the demolition, it was immediately discovered that in fact that wasn't 1820, it was 1946, the same time frame as the rear part that juts out to the west and the little connector piece that connects the garage, quote, sort of garage structure with the others. So it's all 1946. It's fairly not fairly. It's shoddy construction. It's kind of slapped together. There's a lot of weird things that they did, including one part has an automotive piece holding up some of the joists. So it's we're not changing the design at all. Just that would be we would prefer to tear this down because it's not well constructed. It has to be reconstructed anyway, and it creates a lot of difficulty. We're raising the house up to get out of the floodplain, and trying to raise the L that's not well built at all creates a very expensive situation.
Can I interrupt you and ask a question?
Yes.
Just to make it more simple, if I go to EX4, is it that part of the house looking at it from the from either the east elevation that says existing east elevation where there's a change in the pitch? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, right from at say with the east elevation, right at the top, you see 750 to 1800. And
Yeah.
then everything to the right of that is either 1946 or 1970. The 1946 part is the lower part of the one story. Oh, sorry, and some of the garage, and the 1970s is on the very end, and it's really just thrown together. We can look at some of the photographs, and we did pin the date down, by the way, because we discovered that the mason who constructed the chimney actually signed his name and dated it. So maybe there's some photographs included with this with the application we can look
Which
at.
chimney is that? Is that new chimney on the small part of the house?
Yeah, that's the one that on that drawing there on the west elevation, the elevation on the bottom, it's has a rectangular around it. That's right, a rectangle around it.
Yeah.
That one there, yep. And we can look at some of the interior pictures to show some of the construction. You know, the 1800s part is fairly well built. It's post and beam, nice sized members. There's not a lot of deflection or sagging or anything. The 1946 stuff is just, it's a mess. So maybe we can scroll and see some of the photographs. So that's all that's circled in red. That's all 1946, the one story. And you see on the left that little 5-foot section that they tacked on to the existing 1820. The formally from the street, it's all going to pretty much read like this, except for the to the right of this, we're going up a little bit more. We're doing a 1.5 story. So next photograph. And there you see the even in fact. The bay window is not original 1820, but we're going to keep the form. It kind of tells the story of how the house evolved. We're keeping the form of that little shed roof that is 1946. And next picture. And it's just moving around the house, just showing what is all. It's all the 1946 stuff. So in the end, we have the same design. We're retaining the historic part of the house and getting rid of the stuff that was done in the 40s. Maybe we can. Go ahead.
Let me ask a question. If you can go back to the drawings again of what you're proposing, you're removing that portion which you thought originally we thought was 18 something and in 1946. And how is that being replaced? The same design?
It's very, yes, the same design that was presented at the last meeting. It's very similar in form to the existing house. Do we have the proposed drawings here? I think we might.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can look at it.
Would that be?
So you see there's the existing historic house and some of the additions you can see beyond, very similar to what's there now. Go ahead and go to A3. And the front elevation, very similar, except for on the right-hand side, we're doing kind of a big house, back house, barn situation. So we have a little bit taller piece there. This was all discussed, how it went together. And I think the decision was unanimous that everyone pretty much liked the design. And the existing house on the left stays the way it looks now. What is the L that we thought was 1820s, which is really 1946 that we want to tear down and rebuild, it stays formally the way it is now too. So there's not really going to be a change in how it looks in that part. That's pretty much
Mark,
it.
Yeah, Mark, show the section you want to remove and how it's going to look exactly the same then.
Okay, I think if you went to the EX drawings, maybe.
No, right, no. I want you to show them what it's going to look like. Back to A3.
I thought we did that.
Yeah, we just
All right,
talked.
so Mark,
Yes.
or whoever's controlling the cursor, put the
Alan.
cursor just to the left of the bay window on the antique portion. Pardon me, just to the right. There you go, right there.
Yes,
That's the part we want to remove.
yes,
And if you compare this view to the existing view, you'll see it's identical.
yes, we understood that, Bill. At least I did.
Okay, good. All right.
That's pretty much it.
All right.
Unless anyone's interested in seeing the signed 1946 chimney.
Okay, we have one hand up. I think, Bob, is that you?
No, it's not me. I understand this now. I don't quite understand why it wasn't in the application, however. And you are going to remove the garage now, right?
Yes, everything is the same that we planned on doing before.
No, the garage was going to be there in the last version.
No,
That's where the garage is. It was going to be
Everything
replaced by something else.
Everything to the right of the antique was going to be demoed.
Right.
That was
And
that was the original application. That was what was approved back in October.
I understand that. And this application says instead, you're going to, in addition to what you were going to remove and replace, you're not going to replace the spot out at the end that was the garage, which is fine. That's what I understood the application to be. But, all right, never mind.
that's correct. We're removing that existing garage circa 1970, and it's not making a reappearance.
That's,
We have a little,
thank you, Conservation Commission.
Well, why are you doing that?
Frank,
Yes.
this is Jane. On A3 that you just had up there, that shows the garage, is that, I mean, it appears to be much higher than the historic house. Is that what it's gonna look like?
yes, it is.
Yeah, that was what was approved in October.
Yes, I think we had this same discussion, Jane, now that I'm remembering it.
I do remember it, but then, so what was the deal about the Conservation Commission? Is the barn gonna be smaller or what?
The area of where that garage is in the no disturb zone for the wetland. So they wanted them to decrease the amount of disturbance in that area, which is reasonable, I think, so.
Well,
problem.
we haven't even met with the Conservation Commission yet on this design.
Yeah,
So
let's not,
is it gonna be smaller then? Or
No,
let's not get into conservation. Let's.
Well, wait
address-
a minute, he's showing the building's gonna be smaller than we approved last time.
no, we're
I
not.
agree.
What? Your architect just said you were.
No, what?
What, the garage on your original drawing? At the end, the far north end.
Yeah,
Ugh, Jesus.
Bob,
Hold on.
you know, apparently my first narrative was attached as well as my second narrative. And I apologize for the confusion.
I don't have a second narrative.
Well,
go to EX1, there you go. So that garage there, that's shown there, the garage, yes.
Right,
We are removing that, and we're actually moving the door over to the left.
right. And you're cutting off whatever the width of that garage is. It's
That's correct.
15 feet or something.
Yes,
Right, so it's smaller.
yes,
So-
it is.
I'm totally in favor of this, but I get an argument from Mr. Riley.
No, no.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm saying is,
ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, let's not,
oh, no.
we're getting
Okay,
into,
all right.
well, getting into a
The-
little bit more that I'd like us to get into. The
No, I
point,
just, Mr. Chairman, just one further comment for Bob. The garage section that Mr. Sangiolo just talked about was removed and the building shortened as a part of the first application.
Well, all right, if you say so.
Well, in the reason I say that is that we've been to the zoning board of appeals with the shortened version, and it's been approved.
Okay.
let me ask the question another way to move things along here. Is A1 the current design?
I think the answer to that is yes, but yeah.
All right, A1 is the current design, A2 and A3 is showing the existing or the proposed construction. Are we all
Correct.
comfortable with that?
Frank, it's John.
Yes, sir.
Can we go to the photograph of the side of the house that's going to be demolished? The old house, part of the old house? Right there. Can you raise that up a little bit, please? The foundation on that addition appears to me to be consistent with the foundation under the rest of it. Can someone explain to me how that could be if that's a newer addition?
Yeah, I can explain that. All the foundations were redone in 1946. They're all concrete block with a brick veneer.
Yeah, that was my
Okay.
assumption also, Don.
Thank you. I just needed that clarification.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you look at the drawings, and I appreciate the pictures you showed, I think there are pictures showing the interior. Yes,
Oh, yeah. So there's the signature.
yes.
And I always love finding stuff like this in buildings, and you find it a lot. And you can see the bottom left is the circa 1800, the nice size beams, the nice size planking. And then on the right, you see the 46 just kind of picking up the some lumber that they found around, or they built up the trusses and for the roof structure. So it's really, it's a mess.
Okay. We went round a little bit, but I think we are hopefully going to end up in the same place, which is part of the process. As difficult it is via the remote. Does anybody else need any further clarification of the changes being proposed?
Is it possible to ask a question?
Absolutely.
I'm
Who
a
is
butter.
this?
I'm a butter, Rosamond Volley.
I'm
And
sorry. Can you just address yourself again? I apologize, ma'am.
I'm Rosamond Volley. I'm an abutter directly behind this property. And I had a question, again, related to the application that you were talking about earlier, because one issue that I'm very confused about is the height of this the newly raised buildings and the new construction. On the application, item number 25 is left blank, which talks about the building height. I understand that everything has to be raised. I think it was 4 feet because of the flood, being in the flood zone. But if you look at the original, the house, existing house, the old house is about 20 feet on one side and 23 feet because of the grade differential on the other side, and it is now going to be 34 feet in new construction. That's 10 feet plus higher. And the new addition on the far right is going to be over 37 feet. And I just wonder, where's this extra height coming from? Is it in the structure? I want to know how high those buildings are going to be if I'm looking at it compared to existing structures now.
Mr. Chair,
Well, let me just respond to her first before you do, Bill. We don't truly have design review responsibility. When we address things like that, we address it in relation to its impact on the historic structure. But go ahead, Bill.
well, if you look at A3, which is up on the screen now, you can see that the antique portion is showing a height from top of foundation to the ridge of 19 feet 1 inch. So there's been no change in the height of the antique because we're not changing the antique at all. Now
And you're restoring the chimney. You're going to put a new chimney in.
I don't know if it's what they show is
Yes, we're replacing.
but yeah, there's going to be a chimney there.
Yeah.
And the existing house is being raised up 4 feet to get out of the floodplain.
Right.
It'll have the same proportion from the foundation to the ridge. We're not extending the height of expanding the height of the building. And the new portion on the right, I think, is 3.5 feet higher or something like that. So if you're in your house, Mrs. Volley, and looking at it, you'll just imagine the existing 4 feet higher and the barn part 3.5 feet higher than that. And we're not asking for a zoning variance for the height or anything like that.
I just was confused by I guess it goes down to the lowest grade rather than the existing grade for the structure. So I was very confused about that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are you going to zoning, or have you been to zoning already on this, Bill?
We've been to zoning. The appeal period expired today.
So you got to go back to zoning?
No. Because we're not changing any of the dimensional issues that the zoning board deals with. So building coverage isn't changing, height's not changing. We had to go back to you because we want to take that small section.
Yes. Okay.
And we're going to conservation tomorrow.
Okay. Well, good. Thank you very much. All right, we can go back. Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your question.
Thank you.
Anybody, member of the public, have any other questions or comments? Okay. So how about members of the board? You can close that part of the hearing. Does anybody want to comment or one way or the other relative to the application? Now that we understand it, it's not that complicated.
Right, Don?
Yes.
I think the proposal is appropriate, and I have no problem.
Thank you. Jane, you okay?
I am sort of, but I'm still, it appears to me on this drawing, A3, that the end of the structure, the new structure, is quite a bit higher than the old house. And that does bother me.
Yes, it does. I would tend to agree with you, except that it is pretty far away from the truly historic home. So I think there's enough separation. If it was close, if it was much closer, I would agree with you. It would dominate it. That's my opinion from an historical preservation perspective.
That's what Sarah Karchev was always concerned about.
Right. Stephanie?
I guess I'm all right with it. I'm so confused now. I agree with Jane, though. So the roof of the new part is as high as the chimney of the old part. And that looks, it's warping the old house.
I don't disagree with you. Ben?
I have no problem with it at all.
Bob?
No problem once explained. I think we went through the height issue the last time around and
Yes,
just
we did.
achieved a consensus.
Yes, we did. All right. What this goes to show us that notwithstanding the comment relative to the value of our application, if the applicant were to just make a very simple narrative, things would go a lot easy. All right.
Well,
let's
that's
do a
true.
roll
And,
call.
I apologize. I think
Yes.
the difficulty arises out of the fact that we had a very, very short window in which to get it filed. And so
Understand.
that's what happens when you rush. So I apologize for the deficiency.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, here we go. Can motion, Mr. Lear?
Yes, since we have already decided that the building is historically significant, I move that the Chatham Historical Commission also find the proposed work to be done dated, and there are two revision dates on the plan, November 12th, 2020 and November 15th, 2020, will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building structure, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
We have a second.
John seconds it.
Don, thank you very much. Any other further comments, questions? Any member of the public wish to speak? Hearing none. Roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes,
Stephanie,
I'm going to abstain. I'm still bothered by how much bigger the new part is than the old part.
okay, Jane,
I agree with Stephanie. We're going to abstain.
Unbelievable.
Mr. Aikman,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 yes with 2 abstentions. I wish if you're going to do that, you'd let us know so we could talk about it before we get into it. All right, either way, we're all right. There's a gentleman's picture I see. Mr. Cliff. Sir? Do you mind turning your video off?
the architect.
Frank, I think that's Mark. I don't know why the name is wrong.
Sorry, I'm borrowing somebody's computer.
Oh, that would explain it.
That was Mark? Okay. The motion passes. Thank you very much, Bill. And the Earls, good luck.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Riley, I have a call into you when you have nothing to do. If you can call me back, I'd appreciate it at some future time. All right. Let's move on to old business. We have a number of items that we have to address as the commission. The first item, the proposed zoning bylaw changes to enhance historical preservation. Hopefully Ally is with us.
Yep, Frank, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Where we are with this, members of the commission, for your information, is that Ally, I, Michelle, and Mr. Lear met informally to discuss the last changes that we had talked about at our previous meeting. And there were a couple of other things which came up as a result of a staff meeting. We reaffirmed our previous decision that we were going to proceed only with the dimensional requirements and put the host lot issue aside, thinking it was probably best for us to approach it that way with town meeting. In addition, I'll let Ally speak to, you have two documents in your package. One is the final draft, and the other document, which is in red, changes with the changes we made from the last meeting. I think I said that correctly, Ally. You want to go through it?
Yeah, Frank, you did say that correctly. So I think this will be just a really quick discussion. Let me just share my screen really quickly. So we just made a few minor changes since the last time we all talked. As Frank said, we met with Sarah Gorjeff to go through some of the concerns. And I think that, we made, like I said, just a few changes to make it easier to understand. So again, we didn't change the purpose. Obviously the purpose of the bylaw is to encourage preservation of buildings, structures, and sites to allow adjustments to dimensional requirements if, we do keep the historic structure. Again, definition of eligible historic building. We took this right out of the bylaw, so it is the same as what you all review applications under, so that's consistent. Special permit priority, we said that, obviously our priority is to keep these structures on site, and that's why we're saying that we could vary the dimensional requirements. But we also said that if for some reason, and again, it needs to be reviewed by the Historical Commission, if for some reason you can't preserve the structure on site, we will allow you to move it to a different location as long as it's obviously preserved, and you can also use these incentives as well. So that's the special permit priority, and that had not changed since the last time we had discussed. The incentives for historic building preservation, again, these have not changed either since the last time we discussed this. Building coverage, we're proposing currently to allow an additional 10% building coverage than the maximum building coverage allowed in the zoning district. And the building setbacks allow abutter setbacks variations of no less than 1/2 the minimum required setback for the zoning district. So again, those have not changed since the last time we discussed this. We do fully expect that, those might change depending on different feedbacks we hear from different boards, committees, the public. But we just wanted to put out a number because sometimes that's easier for people to kind of think about it and then make suggestions. So special permit process, again, this part really hasn't changed since the last time we discussed this. The first step would be for the Historical Commission to determine if the property is eligible. And then once it is determined that it's eligible, the applicant can apply for a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. But we wanted to make sure first that, again, this property is historic. We affirm that this property is historic before it can go forward to receive a special permit for these incentives. So again, that hadn't changed from the last time we discussed. And then findings. So this was just some changes that we made just to make it more clear. So we just changed the number 1, that the modification of standards and requirements authorized or necessary to maintain the eligible historic building on site on which it originally constructed, or to relocate to another site deemed appropriate by the special permit granting authority as advised by the Historical Commission. So before it had just read it back to such a site, which we weren't entirely sure what that meant. So we just wanted to change the wording to be more clear. So again, that's a finding that the Zoning Board of Appeals will have to make in order to approve the special permit. So we obviously, when we do these, we want them to be very clear. So we made that section clearer. The rest had not changed. Again, we took the findings that are currently in the Zoning Board of Appeals in our bylaw now for the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we just wanted to be consistent. So we kept those. And then conditions to be imposed. This was also changed from the last time we had discussed. We did have a minimum maintenance requirement here. Property owners shall make every effort to maintain the structural and historic integrity of the subject property. We had discussed this with the building commissioner, and we currently don't have anything on the books, as you guys I think are aware of, that talks about this. So this would be kind of a special thing, and we felt that it's inconsistent at the moment, so we took that out. But we obviously want to make sure that, you know, the property is maintained, the historic house is maintained. So we added a section down here with the preservation restriction condition that basically says that, I'm just going to get down to this part here. So in addition, the owner shall record at the Registry of Deeds a historic preservation restriction in the form approved by the Special Permit Granting Authority and approved and endorsed by the Chatham Board of Selectmen. Right? We also had here that Mass Historical Commission should also approve it, but after talking it through further with Sarah Korjeff, we felt that we didn't need to take that extra step. But I would definitely be willing to hear, you know, what the commission's thoughts were on this. We thought that it would just be, we thought it would be adequate to have a deed or preservation restriction that was endorsed by the Board of Selectmen and the ZBA instead of going to that next step. So we thought that that was okay. But again, I'd love to hear from the commission what you guys think of that. And then we continue on, which shall at a minimum provide for conditions under which alterations, additions, or modifications may be made, and in the event of damage or loss to the historic structure, such that the historic structure cannot be repaired, the owner may rebuild on the lot pursuant to Appendix 2, Schedule of Dimensional Requirements of the Chatham Protective Zoning Bylaw, and in rebuilding, you may not take advantage of additional lot coverage and setback flexibility regulations. So what that means is if a historic structure went into disrepair and it was damaged or lost, they would lose these dimensional incentives. So they would have to go back to what is currently allowed when they're rebuilding their structure. They'd have to go back to what is currently allowed in our bylaw. So we hope that that would deter people from letting their historic house go into disrepair if they've received these incentives. And we were comfortable with that. We talked about it with the building commissioner. He was comfortable with that too. And so that's what we're recommending at this point for that. And those were all of the changes that have been made. We do, I think Frank had stated, we're going to meet with the ZBA chair and the planning board chair on Friday to discuss this further, to see if they have any comments or concerns. And if they do, we'll definitely keep you up to date and talk about any changes that they think should be made. So if anyone has any questions, I'm here.
All right, thank you very much, Ally.
Is Jane, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Jane.
I missed the last meeting, but boy, it's a whole lot better than it was. I'm a little confused under number 4, special permit priority. And I don't get what moving of the building structures and elements to other locations shall be considered only if no other preservation measures are practical or reasonable on the existing site, or if the proposed removal is to return a building structure or element to an original or more historically accurate location. Could you sort of explain that?
Yeah, so we, and again, this is kind of a policy part. And so we're definitely looking to the commission to, talk about this and discuss it. But we thought, and I think there are some examples, I don't know them off the top of my head, but I'm sure Frank, you could chime in. But we thought it would be good to allow these incentives if for some reason we wanted a structure couldn't be saved, a historic structure couldn't be saved on the property. And we wanted to, pick it up and move it to a different area in town, that the historic structure would still be preserved. Obviously that's not, I don't think, our first priority. We want to see it preserved on site somehow. But we wanted to, since these are incentives, we wanted to make sure we were flexible enough to say that if for some reason we wanted to move, the historic structure, or we had to move the historic structure, that these incentives would kind of follow the historic structure to whatever new lot it landed on in town. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Jane, you could use 68 Shell Drive, which is not, Fat Lady hasn't sung on that one, but that's a case where we're going to allow it, at least from a historical commission point of view. We'd rather see it moved on the property and saved than not. And so again, this whole purpose of this bylaw is to provide incentives. In other words, and so this is an incentive you may provide to a property owner who has an historic building, who can't or doesn't want to save it in its exact location, but to move it, that we want to give them the option to do that. As it says, is reasonable. In other words, we want to provide that incentive, that could be an option to give them some incentive to do that.
But, well, maybe the confusion for me is in the second paragraph then. But any such incentive is not available to the original lot.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Allie.
Yeah, so we're saying we were trying to fix, I guess, a loophole that we could foresee happening. So if someone, picked up the historic structure and moved it to a different lot, we wanted to specifically say that this incentive then won't be available if you're going to build a new house on this lot where your historic structure was. And so that's why we put that wording in there. Because we thought it could be maybe interpreted as a loophole. So we wanted to specifically state that.
So getting back to 68 Shell Drive, if he wants to move it sort of in place, or I gather back, and build a new house in front, this wouldn't allow that. Is that what you're saying?
So if you wanted to move the historic structure still on that same lot, then the incentives would still apply. It's if they wanted to take the historic structure and move it to a completely different lot, then he wouldn't get any development incentives on Shell Drive, because he'd no longer have, or any property, they'd no longer have a historic structure there.
It's a way to, at least from the other people point of view, is to ensure there's no loophole there.
Okay, I get it.
Well, that's a good question, Jane.
Confusing.
Thank you. It shows me you really read it.
I read it so many times and I still didn't get it.
Yeah, that's why the Historical Commission doesn't do zoning bylaws.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no, it gets to be complicated. The other thing I would just comment, and Sarah did mention it, I forgot to mention in the beginning, we met with Sarah Korjeff on this, and she felt very positive about this. We discussed that if we're able to move this forward, it could be, there are other towns, in Massachusetts, which have this incentive, but not necessarily on the Cape. So if we're able to get this to some particular point, it could be another way to encourage other communities to provide some kind of a similar bylaw if we are able to get it approved. The other comment was the issue of the preservation restriction, and I know Don is very familiar with them. Sarah felt bringing this into the purview of Mass Historic is a bar too high, that it takes forever for Mass Historic to do anything. And if we tie up this whole process needing state approval, it may never happen, or it's not going to happen in the time frame for normal construction. And Sarah felt, and we agreed, that the county deed preservation restriction, and the selectmen is sufficient to provide the protections that we feel we need. And again, I think Ally said it very well. You know, we have on our agenda for future agenda items the idea of maintenance, the issue of property maintenance. And we'll address that at some time in the future if somebody else in the town doesn't pick it up. But we felt we really don't want to address that in this bylaw to make it too complicated. And I see a couple of hands up. Steph, Bob, Don.
Frank, it's Don.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to reply to what you were just talking about, that I believe Ally was looking for an answer. I think from past experience, going to the Mass Historic complicates things so tremendously that I think it's just appropriate to use the county and the selectmen.
Yes. You know, Don, I just figured out something, why I can't hear you. The speaker on my laptop is on the bottom.
Well, I changed to the iPad and I thought my sound was better, no?
Oh, it is better now, but I think it's also my laptop. The speaker is on the bottom for some silly reason, and that's why I can't hear anything. I know I'm hard of hearing. That makes it worse. Bob, do you have a question?
No, I had left my hand up by mistake. Sorry.
All right. And Stephanie?
My hand isn't up.
It is for me.
Okay, it's not for me.
Well, no, it's still up. You got to bring it down. Okay. Thank you. Somebody else took care of that. All right. So having said that, as Ally indicated, you know, with the COVID, everything is moving slow, but I appreciate Ally's helping us. And as we said, we're meeting Friday with the chairs of the ZBA and the planning board, and then we'll determine what the next step is before we go forward. Okay, a couple of other things we should do quickly. Thank you very much, Ally.
Thank you. And thank you, Don. I'm sorry. Thanks, Don, for the preservation restriction comments. I appreciate it.
Yes. The revised rules and regulations, which we previously approved, we will have a public hearing on the 5th of January. No other comment on that. Unless anybody has a question? Nope. The U.S. Coast Guard Boathouse. I did send you a working draft from Eric Dre. He's making good progress. He's working with Dick Ryder and another gentleman by name of, I think it's Tim Ding or Dinge, I'm not sure. But these are two coasties and guys with a lot of history. So hopefully in another week or so, we'll have that form be completed. I guess the next step is whether or not, in Eric's opinion, it's worthy of submission to Mass Historic for consideration as an eligible National Register structure. And of course, we will work in concert with the town. Relative to the more important question is we're still awaiting the engineer's report from the town and make some decisions on, the town, on whether or not the existing historic boathouse is applicable for utilization as the upweller. Nothing more I can share with you at this particular point, but stay tuned, things are happening. The preservation awards, item D in my agenda, we have 2 applications, Michelle.
For January 5th? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have 2 from last year. Sorry, you switched subjects. Preservation awards, we have the 2 from last year. I don't have anything yet for this year.
Yeah, I would like to propose, we have a couple of calls out to people, and, I'd like to wait until early mid-January before we pull the plug, but I would like to suggest for the commission to consider that even if we only have the 2, okay, I think we should have some kind of a virtual ceremony and award those two, which we already voted on, rather than keeping it another year. I'm hopeful that we will get some additional applications. And Don, do you have anything to add on that Silverleaf property?
No, I haven't heard back from the owner.
Okay. And I haven't heard back from Mr. Morse on 154 Champlain, so I don't know where that is either. So we'll proceed. Okay, next item on the agenda, Monomoy Theater property. Oops, sorry, wrong place. Under old business, application guidelines. Michelle, I know you're a busy lady.
Yes.
And Katie is too, but can we try to find a time and a date for you and I, Bob, and her to get together on that issue?
Yes, Katie sent me an email. I was out yesterday. She sent me an email, and I will get together with her ASAP and figure out a date.
Okay, right. I just like to get it on a calendar, so because everybody's busy. All right. Relative to the so-called chairman's report, the status of the demolition delays, you have a copy marked up by Michelle. Again, 154 Champlain, he's pretty much done. I think he has a CO. 26 Cockle Cove has been sold, so we'll find out what's going to happen there. 68 Shell Drive demolition permit has been issued. And I guess I could talk more about that as my next agenda item. Michelle, is there anything specific we need to know about on the status?
For 68 Shell, they need to get that, the permit has been issued, but they need to commence work by January 5th, I believe.
Okay, well, hopefully they will.
Yes.
All right. But nothing else on the demolition statistics that you think we ought to be noted?
No, you'll notice that 117 Shattuck has an application in now for new construction, which that sat for quite a while. That demo delay was a year ago, this past September imposed. They've now submitted an application for new construction, but nothing for the demolition yet. So not sure what's going on there. 389 Bridge, that determination has expired, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but we haven't received any applications. And 157 Cross, as you know, is underway, I believe. So that is done as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think this is a useful document because sometimes we make decisions and they just go away. All right. To continue, 68 Shell Drive, which is the next item on the chairman's report. I was busy writing letters. You got a copy of an email copy of my letter to the ZBA Chairman Nixon, as well as a large number of attachments, which is the bloody history that we've had between us and Mass Historic in attempting to get it listed as an eligible National Register structure. It is an eligible National Register structure, and it currently is going before the ZBA on Thursday. Hopefully you have a chance to read my my soliloquy relative to why we think 68 Shell Drive should be saved. And I think the job we have now individually and as a commission is to convince the town, specifically the planning board, CONSCOM, and ZBA, to find a way to save this, as I call a historic home. It's going to be an absolute shame if we allow this house to go away and be demolished. So I know there's a million reasons why everybody, including the planning board and everybody, could say no, but I think it's time for them to step up or we're going to lose it. So yeah, I will be speaking at the Zoning Board of Adjustment on Thursday. You know, I may be the chairman, but any other member of the commission could tune in and give you 2 cents, because it's at one point, the chairman will be asking for people who will speak for and against the application. I have encouraged other people, like Protect Our Past, also to write letters or to come to the commission. I think unless the community gets behind this, it's going to go away. That's all I have to say about that. If anybody else wants to chime in, okay. Monomoy Theater property, HBDC denied the application to demolish those 4 ancillary buildings and the Depot Street house. I saw an email that the Board of Selectmen are going to do a site walk on Friday the 19th. I guess they want to take a look at the buildings themselves. And I'm not sure the date of the actual Board of Selectmen appeal decision. Do you know, Michelle?
I don't.
Okay.
I
It's
can check on that for your next meeting.
All right, good. I appreciate it. Good old South Chatham Village, National Register District. We'll keep waiting on Mass Historic to take an action. So hopefully we can light a fire under them. I did send out a couple of letters at your request. The letter relative to the Nickerson Family Association to CPC, and also to CPC on the Protect Our Past. Steph, do you know when that meeting is going to happen?
In January.
Okay. What's the deadline for submission of applications?
I don't know if it's changing this year or not. There's a discussion of changing it.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, is I penned a letter to Miss Karen Davis of the National Register Mass Historic Commission on with Craig Cartier's analysis, which he felt supports the first period construction date of the house. So let's see where that goes. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe it. It's 4 o'clock and I think we're done unless
Frank.
somebody wants to chime in.
Frank,
Yes, sir.
Dean's hand is up.
Mr.
Frank.
DeCastro,
Thank you, Frank.
thank you for joining us.
As your liaison, happy to hear you, watch you. You asked whether when the appeal of the HBDC on the Monomoy Theater was going to take place. It is listed as a future Board of Selectmen agenda item for December 22nd. Now that could change, but that's what is currently planned. So I just thought I'd answer your question.
Well, thank you very much. You have a meeting tonight, right?
Yes, we do. In a couple hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you got time for dinner.
I hope so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dean. Dean, as you see, we got a couple of activities which will be coming back to you, specifically our proposed bylaw, which we're going through the process with ZBA. And do you have a copy of that, a draft?
Well, I saw what was flashed on the screen. Perhaps Michelle at convenience could email me, or Ally, I guess, could email me the version that you're reviewing. So at least I'll have it.
Yes, I would appreciate that. We're at the point where, we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's with staff. And again, we met once with ZBA and Planning Board informally, and now we have something more definitive. And our general plan is to have these in-house staff meetings and then go to council. I think, if Ally, are you still here?
Yeah.
Yep, I am, Frank.
Yeah. Would we be going to the Board of Selectmen before or after we went to council with our proposed bylaw?
Yeah, so I was thinking that after, and I think we were all thinking that after we have these meetings with the chair, chairs of the ZBA and planning board, if something, drastic came up, we could try to revise. But I was thinking that we were going to go as a whole to planning board, the entire board and ZBA to hear everyone's comments. And I'm sure we could go to the Board of Selectmen at that point too, if you wanted. And then after that, we would send it to council to review.
Dean, do you think that's a good way to do it?
Yes, Ally, you were suggesting that you would go to council before the Board of Selectmen or after?
After that, we'd hear all the comments, and then at that point we could make some changes if they were necessary, and so that council could hear the revised final draft.
I think that's a good process, Frank. And Frank, you may remember when you were still holding meetings in person, when this was coming through, I was present at a couple of your meetings when this was discussed, so I'm familiar with the general principles, but I'll look forward to getting the topic, current version.
All right, Ally, if you could send the draft to Mr. DeCastro, that would be appreciated.
No problem.
Okay, unless somebody else has a comment, any members of the public? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've done it.
I move we adjourn, Frank.
I second it.
And there's a second. I lost my roll call sheet. Here we go. Mr. Lear,
Here, yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, 4 o'clock. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ally. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you,
You're
Mark.
welcome.